Today's Morocco's win against Spain tells us one thing. As Komen said, Tiki-Taki is dead. No team should play Tiki-Taka in 2022. Let's react to Espn's post-match analysis.
Meanwhile, Luis, what happened to your Spain?
Well, what can I say? We did a lot of passes. I know that Ali's going to be very happy about that. That's the way it is. We have the possession. We were dominant. And what can we say? I mean, I don't want to take any credit from this Morocco side. I think Spain did what they have to do. They tried to have the ball. They have to try to open on the wide area, try to create chances. But the Moroccan team didn't make any mistakes at the back. And to be honest, the midfield of Busquets, Gavi and Pedri, they were overrun by Amrabat and Unai. They were really, really impressive. And I was expecting maybe in the last minutes of the game they will be tired, but they continue being very, very disciplined at the back, very well organized. And Spain doesn't have that. But that's something that we knew from the very beginning of this tournament. We don't have the players up front that can make. We don't have the Mbappés. Don't have the Dembélés. We don't have Neymar. So we don't have these kind of players that on their own they can break two players and score a goal. We need that working between all the players, that movement of the ball, that quick passes between the balls. But today, because there was no spaces at all, Busquets, I think they didn't even touch a ball for 20 minutes. Olmo, Ferran Torres, they couldn't pass their own defenders. They always facing another defender and another defender. Bono was outstanding in all the game, not only in the penalties. And at the end, well, this is the Spain that we knew that it could happen. I think it was a mirage what we saw in the first game against Costa Rica, a team that opened up against Spain, and then we could use that. But at the end, I think that Morocco, in the end, could do something today, and it was in the penalties. But I think that Spain need to continue what they continue doing because they are very young and feel very proud because I think it's been a good tournament for them.
Lots of points to unpack today. I don't know what Luis is smoking. I don't know what kind of domination he's talking about. Did we watch the same game? Possession doesn't mean anything in 2022. Just because you had more possession doesn't mean you dominated the game. And all the passes Spain had, how many shots they had on target? Just one. Even Morocco had more shots on target than Spain. I think Luis is still living in 19th century. He doesn't understand it. Possession doesn't work anymore. It's about chance creation and scoring goals. It doesn't matter how much possession you had. Also, at the last, what he said, Spain had a good World Cup so far. What the hell he's talking about? I agree that Spain doesn't have fearsome attackers in this squad, but they still have a decent team. They still have a lot of good players in this team. There should not be no excuse whatsoever. And why Spain lost today against Morocco? Because of their coach's stubborn tactics, because of his bias, his bad team selection, and his arrogance.
So the problem, Ali, they've only got one way of playing.
Well, yes, and it's an issue that we knew coming into the tournament and that we had pointed out time and time and time again. What I thought was really frustrating today from Spain's perspective, and yes, the passing side to side that just never stopped. It was endless. The positioning that guys like Gavi and in particular Pedri were taking, though, in the second half, Pedri was playing off of the left shoulder of Laporte. And in the first half, he was playing off of the right shoulder of Rodri, the two center backs. And his role was getting the possession, getting the ball from Laporte to then open up his body and find Jordi Alba over here on the left-hand side. Then that ball would then get played back to Pedri, open up his body, and find Laporte. There was never a pass going that way. And guess what? Who should be in the position to get that ball in between lines for Spain when they're attacking? Usually, a guy like Pedri. So when he gets his head up in the position that he had taken, there was nobody to play into. There was no vertical movement to play into.
LA is absolutely right. All Spain did today is side passing, back passing, time wasting. That's it. I feel like they did not have a game plan. They just wanted to play slow possession and see if Morocco does one simple mistake and score goals. And why the hell Busquets is playing in 2022? He should not be even in the bench, let alone on the pitch. Rodri, one of the best CDM in the world right now. You are playing him as a center back? Come on, Luis Enrique.
And to the point of changing the way that you play, at some point, How about a direct ball around the corner? How about a service that turns around Morocco, that forces to defend facing their own goal rather than always defending what's in front of them? It was never uncomfortable up until Nico Williams came on the field and actually took somebody on a 1v1 situation and generated a couple of crosses. But up until that point, it was just from A to B to C to D, and here we go back again this way and back again this way. They never, ever looked like scoring today, and certainly there was never vertical options. There was never vertical movement, and there was never a shot from distance.
To add with what Ellis said, if you don't learn from your mistake, like you lost against Japan playing this football, possession, side passing and back passing. If you don't learn from that mistake, if you don't adapt your game tactics to improve your game plan, to have a B tactics, not just one tactics, you are doomed. I just don't understand what's the meaning of so much obsession for possession football when you can see it's not working.
Luis, do you think it might have been a different outcome for Spain had he taken some of these players with him?
Of course, at the end, you have a plan B. I think that he had a plan B, but it wasn't no much different from the plan A.
So this was the plan A. Play back passing, side passing, possession. That's it. And what is plan B? Subs out some player, bring out new player, and play the same style. Possession football, side passing, back passing. Do you say that's a plan B? Also important point, Morata, the only player in this squad, I feel like, who can make dangerous runs, forward runs. None of the other players make those runs. As much as he's bad at finishing, he's the best forward you have. How do you keep him in the bench? Why don't you start him in the starting lineup?
Jules, there's a few names you could pick from here, but who stood out to you the most from Morocco's team today?
Well, I think that the whole collective to start with, because they really fought for each other, like they said to us after the game. I think Sofiane Amrabat in midfield, who had been struggling with back pains. He stayed up until 3 a.m. last night with a physio. He played with an injection. To be able to play like this for 120 minutes, and he was amazing. He was literally everywhere. To see Azzedine Ounahi, for example, the young midfielder from Angers who was born in France, for Luis Enrique after the game to say, someone really impressed me. That number 8, what was his name? He didn't even know his name. So we said, oh, Ounahi, he went, oh my word, where is he coming from? So to see those guys, and Saïs at the back with Aguerd, Hakimi, Mazraoui, those guys were outstanding. And then you've got Ziyech, of course, who is the icing on the cake because he's by far the most talented player. Someone who was not with the national team for the last 2 years, who came back because of the new head coach Walid Regragui, who brought him back. But if you just pick one, I think he has to be the one that Luis Enrique himself picked in that Moroccan team, the young Ounahi, who was really outstanding in that midfield.
What Jules said, if that is true, that is embarrassing. That is shambolic. You are a coach and you don't know about the player of opponents have. If you are a great coach, you have to study your opponent's player, where they play, how they play, what position they play, what is their weak foot, what is their strong foot. But Luis Enrique is so agnostic, so arrogant that he even doesn't care.
It didn't look like they'd practiced 1,000 penalties each, Luis, today.
Yeah, well, probably they practice and probably they score so many of them, but it's totally different when you are in training and you have in front of you a friendly goalkeeper, your mates around, and you're joking around and you've been training, you practice and you shoot maybe 15. We all done that, but it's a totally different situation. When you arrive there, the whole crowd, you know the responsibility that it is to shoot that penalty, to score that penalty, and the feelings are right there. It's not the same. I can tell you that feeling, you cannot see it or feel it anywhere else, and probably they're going to remember this penalty shootout forever.
Listen, all the penalties Spain took today, even high school football team can take better penalties than those. The way they took the penalty, there was clear indication that they did not practice at all, whatsoever.
Jules?
Just one last thing on it, because it's something that I've never seen before. I don't know from where Shaka was sat, but from where we were sat, we also had the screen with the cameras from the pitch. And it looked like Luis Enrique was not taking part at all in picking the 5 players for Spain that play. After the game, he said that he only picked 3 out of the 5. Well, you're the head coach and you pick 3 players out of 5, and then you let Busquets and the players on their own. I mean, Busquets was writing on the piece of paper to give to the referee what order and the name of his teammates that were going to take the penalties. I was like, I've never seen a coach not picking or at least not being part of the process of picking 5 players and maybe even 6, 7, and 8. But for him to go and just pick 3 and then just wander off pretty much and go and sit on the bench, by the way, by himself, when the rest of the staff and all the subs were all together, apart from him, when on the other side, all the Moroccans, including Walid Regragui, the head coach, were together, I thought from a Luis Enrique point of view, that was very, very poor again.
That's not acceptable. I mean, you are the head coach and you cannot make decision for your own team. You just choose 3 players and say, you guys decide. What kind of coach you are? If you are so disinterested in making decisions for your team, why are you a coach? Luis Enrique spends more time on streaming on Twitch rather than planning on a game plan and studying their opponents. That's why Spain lost today.
Luis?
What can I say? I mean, we have to wait and see how Jules will do it. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, everyone is got a way of doing the thing. Everyone is thinking. Now everything looks like Luis Enrique is got all the, because he picked the 11, he picked. Yeah, but he wasn't there when Sarabia put the ball with the right inside and didn't put it in. I mean, there are things that they are out of control of the manager. And they are things that when he decided to pick the 3 of them is because they were the most experienced, the best players on the field, and they will give the confidence to the rest of them. And he picked that one, and the first one, it was probably the best one taken over there, hard and dry, and he went out. You cannot control that. That you are out. I mean, we will not be talking about. We will say, "Oh, Luis Enrique was so calm and confident about these players sitting down on the bench." But because they lost, now we are focusing on Luis Enrique to mention about this thing and this that.
Bro, I understand as Luis Enrique is your friend. He can be your friend. You can still be a critic of him. You don't have to be so blind about that. He was wrong about his team selection, about his bias towards certain club. Let's talk about the lineup. Why the hell Llorente is playing as a right back? Why the hell Rodri is playing as a center back? Why the hell Alba is playing in 2022? He even doesn't play for Barcelona as a starting player. Balde is chosen over him. And why are you playing Busquets in 2022? And Gavi should not start at midfield today. He has shown that he fails at big match. Somehow Luis Garcia doesn't want to admit those mistakes committed by Luis Enrique.